Hello, welcome back to Eric and Linda live from Workvine 209. I'm Eric.
And I'm Linda. Thank you guys for joining us today at our Eric and Linda live show. We have a great speaker today. Before I get into the speaker, I want to bring up our fall special. Eric, can you bring it up, please?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that thing. Here we go.
All right, so there's our fall special. Hope you guys come out and visit us soon. So Workvine 209 is a co-working space out here in Tracy, California. We house a lot of small businesses, small to large businesses, students, startups, and we're surviving the COVID, doing our COVID pivot, which is interviewing people that can bring value to your business, to your community, to your lifestyle. And Eric, I want you to introduce our guest speaker today.
So our guest speaker today is probably, I'm sure he is, one of my favorite attorneys, right? So his name is Eric Milliken. He's the founder of Sutter Law, and we would like to welcome Eric to our show. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Hey, Eric.
Doing good. Thanks for inviting me.
Good. Thank you for being a part of our show. Yeah, you know, I love how you worked with us in our business to help us get started and how we structured it. And you had so much patience and you had understanding and you made it make sense to us. And that was great, man. And I just want to thank you for that part. I mean, for those who are looking to get started and need an attorney to help them. So thank you for that.
Definitely. Thank you. I mean, it was like a different language. I didn't understand any of it. And you made it so easy to understand. And, you know, that's what's important about starting a business is tapping into professionals that know the business and how to structure it. And that's why we hired you, because we were actually recommended from Barney and George from our eLab class that you're associated with. And so we're thankful for them too, to introduce you to us. So thank you.
Yeah. So how did you get started?
You know, when I graduated law school, I was working for a mutual fund. I was doing compliance, and that fund, it was around 2008, it just crashed. And, you know, I kind of bounced around. I was working for Soltech Solar, so I was doing utility scale, power purchase agreements, stuff like that. So I was vice president there. And I was doing all the finance end of it. I had to deal with lawyers on the other side. And once I passed the bar, I just decided, well, why don't I do what I like to do, which is helping entrepreneurs. So I started the Sutter firm. And it's just been going really well ever since. It's just, I started during pretty much the worst time you could in the height of the Great Recession.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was meeting up with other attorneys, and they kept on asking me, like, how are you doing it? We're all starving for clients, and you keep on going. And I said, well, I charge good rates, and I treat people pretty fair. I mean, Linda, to what you were saying, it was a complicated process to set up your corporation, get everything done right. And we set it up to scale, so you guys can build work lines all over the country if you wanted to. And we do this all the time. This is a regular thing. And we do it differently than a lot of law firms, because what we do is we walk you through each document and explain to you why it's important. And it's a flat fee. So you don't have to worry about getting some crazy bill at the end of it. It's just you pay ahead of time and you know exactly what it's going to cost. and then you can just ask as many questions as you want and really get your full value out of having a law firm do it, where you actually understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
It was so simple. I almost want to say it was like click and go. I mean, we did type in, of course, our questions, and you did help us walk through, but it was so easy and it's simple. I mean, because that's what we pay for, is for you to have the knowledge, and and for us to be compliant, which is so very important, right? And so you make it easy. So I would recommend, if you're starting up a business and you need to help with structure, definitely tap into somebody that we know personally and that has done business with us, and that would be Eric Milliken.
Yes. Yeah, Milliken, not Eric Hawkins,
Eric
not this Eric. No way. Hey, so share with our listeners a little bit about what you do exactly.
So our law firm does corporate law, and that's kind of generic. Nobody really knows what that means, but it's all transactional. So think of setting up your corporation or an LLC or a B Corp. We help with all those things. We help entrepreneurs with finance. So basically structuring their investment with outside financiers, making sure that they're in compliance with Securities and Exchange Commission and state compliance rules when you take an investment. And then my favorite part is the exit. We help with mergers and acquisitions. So essentially structuring when your company is sold and how much you get and the taxation too. And I know it sounds kind of boring, but I really like it. I think it's fun. I like the clients we have. The people that come into our firm are just super ambitious, super smart people. And that can be really challenging because they challenge sometimes our standards. Like, oh, we do this because of this. Like, why? We actually have to think about it and tell them our answers. But it's just a really upbeat and fun clientele. For example, Linda and Eric. You guys are extremely smart and just on top of your game. So it's always been a pleasure working with you guys.
Yeah. Cool.
I was going to say something about that, but thank you. I appreciate that other smart people recognize my smartness. Do you, Eric?
Yeah, hey, Eric, she's super smart.
No, but I hope to get to that point where we're doing mergers and acquisitions. That would be like that would be a great successful thing under our belt when we get to that point. Because I'm gonna say we are gonna get to that point, right, Eric?
Yes, that's the goal. So, as a startup company is starting to create an idea, how do they know what the best structure would be for them as an individual or as a team? How do they go about deciding that?
That's a good question.
Great question. And it can rely on a few different variables, but if you're seeking to take outside investment from, say, like venture capital firms, there's a standard that they require, a good Delaware C Corp. And if you don't have that, they're going to ask you to convert your company to that. So the conversion process can be very expensive and time consuming. So if you know you're going that route, basically go ahead and set up a company ready to go for that. So we actually have a package called a venture capital ready startup package, all set up to essentially take venture capital funding through. If it's, say, kind of like a mom and pop operation, what we call a lifestyle company, where essentially you're just going to run this company to make some money and put some money in your pocket, perhaps an LLC would be better for you guys or for the entrepreneur. And so LLCs are a little bit more simple. They're not necessarily set up for investment, but if later down the line you need some kind of an investment, like friends and family, that can be done as well. And then sometimes really nothing's needed. People can just do a sole proprietorship, just kind of work off their own game, and that's fine. So it really depends on your industry, where you plan on going with your company. And, that's part of our intake when we take in new clients. We just sit there and talk them through it. We usually do that as a free consult. We kind of walk through all the different avenues.
Cool. So, which one would take the most liability off of you as an individual or a family?
Delaware C corps are pretty good for that. Delaware doesn't really allow for the shareholders, officers, or directors to sue for acts on behalf of them, unless you're committing fraud or that. So that is a really solid way.
Cool. Good.
What about an S corp? Did you talk about that?
Oh, no, I didn't talk about S corp. So S corps are essentially the same structure of a corporation as a C corp, but it's a designation you make with the IRS. You tell the IRS you want to be taxed as a small corporation. And it gets a little complicated, and it's in a accountant and CPA territory there. But essentially, the profits and losses get passed on to the shareholders. Now, S corps don't work if you're going to take on venture capital funding, because they invest through another corporation or LLC, and that violates the IRS rules for an S corp. So, at some point, you can start out as an S corp, and then when you're going to take investment, you switch to a C corp. It's really easy to do. Just talk to the IRS.
But to consult and you so that you could do the paperwork, right?
You need to talk to your attorney and or your CPA to kind of help you decide if there's money to be saved if you do an S corp.
Wow.
There can be.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really good. Good information. So, helping entrepreneurs get started to figure out the structure. But then when they figure all this out, some of them need funding. Do you kind of give advice for how they can get funding?
Absolutely. I've given countless seminars on how to get venture capital funding and angel funding. Typically, the seminars last for like 2 hours. It's a lot of material, but yes, we help with that. And, a lot of it is just the early on structuring, making sure your company is ready to take funding. Then how much funding do you need, and who do you target? How do you target them? And so we help with all that. We'll even make introductions. We have a extensive Rolodex of investors that we represent, as well as people that know me on LinkedIn, AngelList, all the above. If somebody wants an introduction to somebody I know, all they need to do is ask. It's a good fit. I'll make that introduction. No fee splitting, nothing like that. We'll do it for people who aren't our clients, as long as we feel like it's a good fit.
Wow.
You said something earlier about it's important to make money, of course, but it's also important to save money. And so, how do you get the most money if your company is acquired? That doesn't have anything to do with save money, but we'll get back to that. But how do you get the most money if your company is acquired?
That is an extremely complicated question, but I'll do my best in this format. So when somebody's buying a company, they're buying it for their return on investment. So how much can they make when they buy your company? And if they think they can really scale, say if it's a technology company, you have a technology, but they can take that technology and apply that to their current customer base. That's where they make their money. So one thing when we are trying to basically pitch for somebody to buy a company is we look at how much profit they're going to make in that first 3 years. So that first 3 years, the standard is that they should recoup their investment by buying your company within those 3 years. So we'll reverse engineer their financials to figure out what that dollar figure is. And that's how much we ask. There's other things that could bring you value, like having copyrights, trademarks, and patents. So having a big portfolio of patents and trademarks, copyrights, it increases your value dramatically. It's something that when you sell your company, the buyers, board of directors will look at that, and you can show like this is their IP portfolio that we're purchasing along with all their trade secrets, everything else in their team. So that helps actually give you a lot of value. So it's really important to have those all taken care of.
Wow.
Definitely. Wow. And so back to my other question. So how do you help companies save money too while you're going through this whole process?
Always. I mean, any way we can, right? Like if we know a good development firm, we'll make an introduction to development firms we know. As far as what we charge, we try to do a lot of things on flat fee, so they know exactly how much they pay, so they can budget for that. I mean, any way we can, we'll make introductions to service providers, whatever it takes to get the company going. Yeah.
I like that flat fee.
Yeah, that does work because if you didn't have a flat fee, I mean, it would be very expensive to get legal advice.
Yes, I was working with one of my good friends' companies, and I've known him since I was 5 and he was 4, and he went and started a company. And at some point, he was going through an investment round, and the investor said, "You have to use this other law firm. You have to use it." So he did what they told him to do. So the investment round was going through. The deal failed, and the other law firm sent him a bill for $35,000, and I sent him a bill for $3,500.
Wow.
And it's one of the big three. I'm not going to say which law firm it is, but it's one of the big three. And so that kind of shows you the difference in like how people approach the situation.
Same service, different price.
I was side by side the whole way through. He basically said, "My lawyer is going to be working next to these other that helped me." And so I was side by side on everything.
Wow.
So that tells you the difference in how they fee structure versus how we do it.
Wow.
That's a lot of cost
I got
savings.
A story for you. We'll probably take up the rest of the show, but yeah, I am excited that you have these flat fees in place for, businesses that are getting started that can really add value to them. So when we're talking about funding for startups, what are some of the things that need to be in place to go for, a seed round of funding?
Sure. Well, one is having your company or corporation set up. 2, you got to make sure the intellectual property is transferred to the company. And 3 is make sure everybody has binding employment or consulting agreements that transfer all the developments they make to the company. These are the most important things. And I'll give you an example. Just recently, one of my clients, has had 2 very, very large exits, both over 100 million, and he's investing in one of his friends' companies. He asked us to do a little due diligence into the company, and sure enough, we find that the domain names for the company are held by the CEO individually. So that's pretty important. If you don't even have your own, if the company doesn't even own the domain name, at any time this guy could demand an exorbitant amount of money from the company to buy it back. Right. So that was one of the preconditions. The domain name needs to be transferred to the company.
Wow.
I wouldn't even think about that, really.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So do you have to be very profitable in your business to go for a round of funding?
You actually don't. If you find the right investors, they're looking for the next big thing. I mean, if you look at Amazon, it just barely became profitable. So a good investor will stick in it for the long haul. Mm-hmm. If you show you have projected growth and you have a lot of stickiness, meaning your customers really like what you're doing, you can basically show this through financials that essentially people want the service you're providing, but you need more money to provide it for them. A lot of investors are looking for a company that has proven itself as a proof of concept, and they're looking for investment to essentially get it in the hands of the customer. So I call this like putting gasoline on the fire. They want to pay for marketing, promotion, and sales team. They don't want to pay for back-end engineers and research and development. So you need a little bit more than an idea to get investment. You need an actual working product, and then the investors will give you money to promote it and get it in the hands of customers. So that's the model they're all looking for.
Okay.
I have a question. So, I mean, um, this is like it's affected everyone, of course. But how has COVID-19 affected your business?
We haven't noticed anything, honestly. It's kind of weird. We thought we would notice because people stopped calling or something to that effect, but we had like 2 weeks where it was a little bit quiet when everything first happened. Nobody knew what to do, but business just kept on moving on. So it hasn't affected us much. Some of our customers or clients had pretty bad effects from this, and some of them have done really well. Like anything in the remote or educational software, those have done really well. Anything that is kind of streamlining and more efficient, technology-wise, done really well. So, interesting landscape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either COVID helped your business really well, or it had either wiped out your business to that extreme.
Yeah.
And the rest is like in the middle, like treading water. Like, when is this going to pass? Like
our law firm's kind of doing the treading water where everything just seems the same, but we have seen an uptake and we're like the bigger companies are swallowing up the smaller ones. Game or care.
Wow. So with COVID and some of your clients, do they come to you asking for advice, or do you have team in place to help them kind of get through this COVID issue?
Absolutely. I mean, when this first came out, we basically were on it. We sent out a newsletter to every one of our clients and kind of outlined like some of the rights and if they can get out of some of their contracts. Here's what you need to do. So things like that we sent out right away. We sent out newsletters regarding the PPP and then the disaster relief loans. And some of our clients were able to secure a great deal of funding through those things with our guidance that helped them through this whole capacity. So yeah, we've been on it as best we can.
Wow. So
go ahead, Eric.
So are you guys doing anything different, or everything's pretty much the same?
One of our attorneys is working 100% remote because her husband's more at risk. Wow. And then we each have our own offices. Like we're taking all the steps. We wear masks, stuff like that, in the common areas. But for the most part, things are pretty much the same.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to I have this website here. Can you talk about a little bit about Angel.co?
Sure. Angel.co is, I guess the analogy is, it's the Facebook for investing. So basically you can friend people, you can follow companies, you can look up their investor list. This is a great resource for any entrepreneur looking for investment. And the reason being is you go on that website, and you can look up similar companies to yours, like companies in the same vertical, and then you follow them. Then you can also look at their investor list. And it's a great tool if you're looking for investors, because you could basically scrape their list and you start reaching out to each one of these investors, say, via email or Twitter or what have you, say, hey, look, I know you invested in this other company. Our company does something very similar and be very complementary to that company, and we'd like to show you our pitch deck. I mean, that simple of a message can make millions of dollars in investment. So you can use that website as a great resource to find investors that have already invested in similar technologies. You typically don't want to get an investor invested in the same exact competitor of yours, because there's usually a duty of loyalty. They want their companies that they've already invested in to do well. They don't necessarily want to hedge their bet and invest two in the same vertical, but sometimes they do.
Wow. I'm going on angel.co.
Eric, how come we haven't been on that list?
I have.
Go look up all the WeWork investors and tell them you'll make a real business model and make them real profit.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's good. Good. So you also do, I know you do a lot of different speaking engagements on a lot of different topics. What's your favorite topic to talk about?
I really do like the investment topic. I mean, I have a 2-hour presentation I go through, and it's real fluid. So I let people ask questions all the way through. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I have like a few slides on it, but mostly it just comes out of my head. And because it's fluid and I let people ask questions all throughout the whole thing, time flies really quick.
Yeah.
What I need to do is do a virtual one. This would be great. I need a lot of people to use that right now.
Yeah, we can help you with that.
Yeah, we can do that right here. We'll do it live.
I would love that if you guys want to organize that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just did a series on for marketing, and we had 4 different speakers, and it was a 4-week series. So maybe we just focus on this and do it. How long did you say it was? 6 hours or 2 hours?
But that's for the live audience, so I don't know how they'll go on Zoom.
6 hours. Their video starting at 9 o'clock, should be over at 3.
By then, they'll know more than most lawyers. So, no, what I'm really passionate about is taking somebody who has like an idea or something that is conceptual and that they want to change the world. They want to do something good, and helping them, giving them all the tools, giving them the resources, and giving them a game to get through to the next level, get their funding, and get their company into the hands of the most amount of people possible to do what they're trying to do. I mean, I push people. That's just how my personality is. I want people to achieve their dreams. And it's probably annoying for my friends, like always pushing them like, hey, you should do that. You should go to that school. You should go ahead, you should do that. But for my clients, they want it. That's something they pay for and they love it. So that's something I really want people to unlock their potential.
Well, you got it. We're going to do that.
Yeah, you heard it right here. If you need that push, call that number right there on your screen. Yeah. If you're a startup, an entrepreneur, even if you're, I guess, a little past that startup phase and need some help or support, guidance, Eric is the guy to reach out to. So any last comments or suggestions to those who are viewing our show, or advice that you can give someone who's in the industry of starting their business?
Well, my best advice for you guys starting a new company is to seek out an attorney for the company. And I'm not just saying that to pat myself on the back to generate revenue, but it's to prevent you guys from having disagreements, arguments. Putting things on paper, in a written contract, it maintains friendship, it prevents disagreements, and it forces you to answer difficult questions early. That is extremely important. And then I'm going to put this out there that anybody that's part of the Workfind 209 will get a free 1-hour consultation.
Wow.
All right.
You heard that live.
You heard that right here.
Yeah.
Free consult.
And it's worth it. Every minute is worth it. So
I hope so.
Take that time out to do it, because it's worth it. And like you said earlier in the show, is that by doing these steps with you, it will save you a ton of money in the long run. Having to deal with other things that may come up, you took care of it in the forefront.
Yes.
And so I highly recommend getting your paperwork in order correctly the first time, instead of spending way much more money later, trying to fix it. So thank you for all the preventative measures that you've taken to help
Yes.
our company and our, our passion of what we do, helping other people start businesses. And so thank you, Eric. Really, I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Every penny and every minute.
And it really counts. And you can get 1 hour free as long as you mention Workvine 209 with Eric Milliken at Sutter Law. Remember that.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Eric, for being part of our show, man. You've shared quite a bit of information. I hope that it adds some value to our viewers and our listeners. And we're going to be putting together that 2-hour live show where we can get some Q&A and get all the information you need to fundraise, right? Is that fundraise?
Yep.
What do you call that? Fundraise?
Startup fundraising.
Startup fundraising. All right. Well, thank you, Eric. And I appreciate you for being a part. And thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you,
You
Eric.
too. All right. You guys have a